In this episode, we're interviewing a big name in comics, Brian Buccellato.
And he's worked on just about every DC character that you can think of, either through Injustice or through his Godzilla vs. Justice League vs. Kong.
And his Flash run was fantastic. And he's been doing a lot of independent stuff with Image.
Like Sons of the Devil.
And he's actually done some Hollywood stuff that we might talk about too.
He's a movie writer.
He's a comic colorist, he's a comic writer, he's worked with some celebrities. So here is our interview with Brian Buccellato.
You start.
I get to start, son. On today's episode, we have Brian Buccellato on. He happens to be one of my favorite. We've actually met before. You wouldn't remember, many, many years ago back at New York Comic Con. You signed this for me, as well as many other things.
No, I remember that book.
You do? Did a little bit. So, what got you into comics to start? You're actually, before we start, we're in Staten Island right now, so you're a Queens guy, right?
I am. I grew up in Queens, spent most of my childhood in Queens. I moved around a little bit in high school. I lived in the Bronx for a couple of years, lived in Brooklyn for a year. I think Manhattan, but like at the tip of Manhattan, like Inwood. So it was kind of like the Bronx. I lived there too. So
you never lived on Staten Island?
Never lived on Staten Island. No.
Where are you now?
I'm in Los Angeles now. So I am pretty far away. Yeah. I lived in Jersey City as an adult, which was, kind of like another borough.
Sure. Yeah, it
Very
practically
close.
is part of Manhattan now.
How long you been on the West Coast?
Oh, since the mid '90s.
Oh, okay.
So I grew up in New York, and I moved to LA when I was like 24.
Okay. Yeah, I stayed here. Been here every day of my life. Never lived a day out.
I miss it. Believe you me.
Yeah?
Yeah, of course. Always be a New Yorker. Always be a Yankees fan. Always be a Knicks fan.
Good.
Love being in the city.
We interviewed someone last week, and he was a Red Sox fan. So we had to push through the fact that he was a Red Sox fan.
He was a good guy.
He was a good guy. It was really nice.
My oldest friend moved to Boston for like 3 years, and I refused to visit him. So there you go.
That's a true Yankee fan. I told I have two older daughters. I told them they can marry any of them they want, but they cannot marry a guy who's a Devils fan, because if a person's a Devils fan, cannot come into my house.
Fair enough.
So I'm actually a huge fan of this.
Midlife.
I believe that you are writing it for us, people like us. The fact that a 50-year-old can be a hero, because most heroes start off at a younger age. This one is we're both in our 50s now too. So where did
Guilty.
I know you're about the same age as we are. From what I saw, you're born in 70, right?
Yep.
So you're a little bit older than us.
So a lot of our pop culture touch points will probably be the same.
We know a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
Hence Star Wars.
So where did the idea for this come from? Midlife.
It really came from my experience doing Chicken Devil at Aftershock.
Okay.
Back in like 2016, I kind of like stepped away a little bit from comics because I got into the Universal feature fellowship. It was like a paid fellowship where sort of learned feature film writing from inside the studio system. And because Warner Brothers owns DC, Universal did not want me working, and so like I was working at the time. I was working on sort of like the Ground Zero Injustice thing, and I had to step away from it. And so I thought maybe this is my chance to do the movie things. I love film and television and stuff like that. So I kind of leaned into that and didn't really concentrate on comics for a while. And then when I came back, I started. I think when I came back in earnest, I'd done little things here and there, but when I really decided I wanted to get back into comics, because even if you're successful to some degree, success is weird in the industry. Like in Hollywood, like you can get paid to write things and no one ever sees them.
Yeah,
right.
And so, I guess by some measure that can be successful. And of course, it's always a hustle, but you can write only so many things that nobody ever gets to look at or read or experience before you're like, man, comics is cool, because even if only 100 people read it, somebody is experiencing the thing that you feel like you had, had something to say about. So Chicken Devil was sort of like a different side of me because it was like this. I don't know if you guys read Chicken Devil or not, but
I did not. I haven't read it, no.
well, you should. The volume 1 trade is out there. The pitch for that is sort of like, what if I was a what if I owned a hot chicken restaurant and I had a partner who got involved with the Russian mob and owed them money, and the Russian mob killed my family? How would I get revenge?
Okay. Right. All right.
Well, I've never been in the military. I don't have any special skills, except in the case of the main character, Mitch, he makes really good hot chicken. And so it's like a revenge story about a guy who fails sort of upward, getting revenge for the death of his family. Yeah. And it's called Chicken Devil because the mascot for his store is a chicken in a devil suit. So he actually wears that when he goes. That's awesome. And gets his revenge.
Okay. That's great.
And it was like dark and it was funny. Like it was like Barry-esque, like the show Barry. It was a side of myself, I think, that is very, is a lot more me, I think, even than like superhero stuff in its sort of like tone. And so I had such a good time with that once I wanted to do an image book afterwards, coming on the other side of that, I was like, I liked sort of writing about myself because Mitch was like, he was a 50-year-old guy also and sort of put upon. And so I was like, well, what else can I do? And so I sort of put myself in the position of being a superhero. Like, what would it be like to be a hero at 50? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Thank you. So the idea is about somebody who's looking backward at his life, which we all know. Like we're Gen X. Like we were like instantly nostalgic and melancholy and always backwards looking. Yeah. To look back at your own life and say, did it turn out the way I planned? Did I do enough? And so that was kind of where that was coming from. And then I just attached it to sort of like a superhero origin. With Ruben's father being a legendary firefighter who died in the line of duty, and him never feeling like he lived up to the promise of his father's legacy. And so that's really how it happened. Like it just was just looking at myself and then trying to turn it into a book that spoke to me.
Well, it works and it speaks to us too, because we don't get a lot of books for us 50-year-olds who have been reading comics for 45 years or more. And this speaks, and it's the first time I saw it was coming out. My local comic shop pulls whatever you're writing just because they know that I'm a fan. And they're like, you're going to love this one. They're like, this one is, this is made for you. This is written for guys like you who have been comic book fans for years and years and years. Now you're getting more in the twilight of your comic book years, and don't look at me like that. And
I don't like that term.
It's twilight, but we are, and you don't. Nobody ages in comics, right? So everybody's basically the same age they were when we started reading it when we were, 10. You got a hero here who's the same age as us, who's just trying to be a hero. And the fact that you say you're looking back on your life, I guess we all do that, especially when we hit that 50 years. We look to say, are we, did we do everything we wanted to do? Have we accomplished everything we wanted to accomplish? It's a great reflection.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, I was going to ask about the difference between screenwriting and comic writing, but I think you kind of touched on that already, is that so much more gets put out there for comic writing, I guess, because, things like budget, right? I'm supposing.
It's the cost to make a film is obviously in the millions, right? And then marketing, and then you have to have an outlet. Someone's got to put it out, right? In theaters, on a streamer. Like, there's so much at stake. There's so many jobs at stake that it's a very risk averse industry, which is why you see a lot of things regurgitated, right? It's like remakes and because there's a lot at stake, and if you greenlight something and it's a big financial failure, it could be your job, right? Like your head could roll. So it's really hard to get yeses. Even if you get to pay to write something, and a handful of times I have been able to get paid to write, but you also write a lot of stuff for free. You know what I mean? With the hope of that happening. Right. In the last couple of years, I've had a couple films made. In the $4 million budget range, VOD kind of level. Yeah. It feels like a big win and really satisfying, but then you look at the movie on the other side and it's like, it's not exactly what I wrote, because there's a director, there's producers, there's financial constraints, there's actors. Like it's so hard to make a good movie.
Yes,
it really is. Like it's a wonder that any good movies come out, because there's so much at stake and so many people and so many ways to fuck it up. Excuse my language.
No, that's okay. Yeah,
in comic books, at most you got 4 or 5 people, right?
Right.
There's some people making the comic book all themselves and lettering it themselves. Like in the case of Midlife, it was me, Stefano Hassan. That's it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And your name probably holds some weight in comics now too. So if you pitch an idea, I mean, I would think most people in the industry know who you are. Whereas in Hollywood, maybe it's a little bit harder because your name isn't.
Yeah, it doesn't resonate, Yeah, for sure. I mean, I would consider myself a mid-level comic writer, you know what I mean? Like, people know me, but, I'm not an instant yes, you know what I mean? Like,
really? So you're getting those from comic industry?
Well, I mean, because the finances, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I pitched stuff to Eric at an Image that he didn't respond to, based on the material, not based on me as a person, but based on, it could be the art, it could be the concept. Like, there's still money at stake, and comics, like the economics is not great, right? It's like you have this piece of the pie that is not growing. It's kind of contracting. Yeah. And so, more people are making comics and are fighting for the same piece of the pie. And that pie mostly represents the direct market, which is comic book shops.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a comic book, shop, and let's say arbitrary number, you have $10,000 you can spend on, on comics every month. You've got to be careful how you spend it, and I don't even know what their budgets are. They could be 5,000, 2,000. I have no idea how many comics pass through a comic book shop, but, like, are you going to take a chance on issue 7 of something? Or if there's a new number 1 coming out from Marvel or DC, if you do this, you see that? Like, if you do this, if you go like
does
this.
that? Really?
Does that automatically? Wow.
I've never seen that before.
Yeah.
That's on you. We've never seen that before. No, it only works with you.
Why doesn't yours work?
What are you using the Zoom app? Are you?
Yeah. We have
for Mac.
No.
Maybe it's because you're on PC.
Maybe
I'm on Mac.
Yeah. I'm paying for this, and they're not letting me do that. Nice, thank you. But you have made a couple of movies, so you have. Are you actually a couple of movies with John Voight in it, right?
Yeah, those are the 2 movies that have been produced. And I'm they're I think they're all right. They're not bad. I've seen worse movies out there, so I'm proud of them. But I also know, I wrote the script, so a movie's made, they say at least 3 times: when it's written, when it's shot, when it's edited.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, if you were trying to make your days shooting and you didn't get to do takes 3, 4, and 5 of a really pivotal scene, you may not have the thing that you needed when you're in the editing room, right? And if it's of a certain budget, you don't have the opportunity to go back and do reshoots. So it's hard. I mean, I've made short films. It's freaking hard at any level,
Yeah, where it takes such a massive commitment to many different things. There's so much that goes into it. Like, as a writer, you have to, put your best work forward, but then be okay with somebody sort of meddling with it in the long run, and the same director and, all that other stuff that the producer could step in and be like, I really think we'd like to do this, and change everything. Yeah. Unless you're an auteur like Tarantino or somebody,
Yeah, that's incredibly hard to be.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There's like one Tarantino, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Like in the case of the movie Dangerous Games, the horror movie I did, the producer insisted I did a rewrite before they shot, and he insisted on a scene where a cat gets killed in a garbage disposal. It wasn't in my script. I would never have done that.
Mm-hmm.
But for him, it was like, okay. Yeah.
That's
not my choice.
That reminds me of that scene in Ed Wood, Tim Burton's movie Ed Wood, where he goes to the beef millionaire to get the money, and the guy he puts his son in the movie, and that the movie has to end with a huge explosion. And he's like,
right.
But it doesn't. You're like, no, but it does now.
Now, you have anything in the works now? Any film stuff in the works, or?
I've got scripts out there trying to put together. Trying to develop TV stuff as well. So always hustling, but nothing I can say that is for sure happening.
Sure.
So it's always a hustle.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, getting to do stuff in comics is amazing because I can talk to you guys about something I wrote.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Pretty awesome.
And you have people like really love Death.
Yeah,
And I know.
I was a pretty big fan of that.
This was. I mean, it was really good. It came out shortly after The Flash, so it was very different. So when it came out, I picked it up because you were working on The Flash, and I was like, wow, this is it blew me away, really. And this cover alone was like
I haven't seen that variant in a while. I did the same variant for Midlife. Did you ever see the variant for Midlife?
Really? Because I have.
There's a
here. You don't know what you just set off, by the way.
There's only one variant. There's only one variant, and it's
which issue?
It's issue 1.
Son of a bitch.
I wonder if I can find it here, real quick. Hold on.
Oh,
someone's getting a phone call later.
Well, it was like a 1 in 10 variant, right? Like and the print runs were fairly low. This is. Oh, here we go. Found it. Here we go.
1 in 10.
You will definitely recognize it. Here you go.
Son of a bitch.
Oh, look at that.
All right. I'll look for
You
that.
just started a
a
treasure hunt on it then.
I'll send it to you. I don't know if you're going to find it in the stores anymore.
All right, thank you.
Oh,
I'll send it to you.
It's funny you said it because we met at Comic-Con a number of years back, me and you, and I go every year. I go to New York Comic Con every year, take my 2 kids with me. It's become a tradition. They're in their 20s now. It started when they were young. Meeting you was one of my biggest regrets. Was you had on your table, you had like the really hard variants to the first like 5 or 6 issues of The Flash, and you had it at a really good price. You had a really reasonable price, and I passed on it. And to this day, it's the only 4 issues of, and that's including variants of The Flash that have come out that I missed. And I'm like, God damn it, I could have bought them. It was like $40 or $50 each. And I was like, son of a bitch. It had like $200 each. And it's my biggest regret. Like, I should have freaking bought them from
Sorry, man.
Gelato. And
I don't think I have any of those anymore.
No, and they sell them today. They're ridiculous, the price on them.
I have like a CGC of the white cover CGC. I think that's all I have left. Or maybe just like a regular issue 1 cover. But that's it. Like I gave away a lot of them, and then I sold the other ones that I had.
Well, this for me became a really weird thing for me because what I ended up doing with this was I went around and I got every actor that ever played The Flash has signed one of the comics for me. So
that's pretty awesome.
I have like 5 or 6 of them, and it's like I don't even know. I don't know how well you know the Flash character as it. Do you know the first live action one?
You mean the one before? Was it before John Wesley Shipp?
Yes.
No, I don't know that one.
So in the 1970s, they did a 2-episode. It was like a little miniseries thing, and it was about Batman, and it starred Batman. It was like the Legion of Superheroes, like a superhero thing, and they had all these actors come in and play the superheroes. It was awful.
Was Adam West on that?
Was that like a variety show?
Yes. Yeah. It was like a variety show.
So I've seen videos of the clips from that.
Awful.
It's so
and
bad.
The first one I got signed. This is the guy who signed it. Rod Haas is the first guy to ever play Batman, and I sent it to him, and he was like, first time anyone ever asked me for an autograph on this. So I'm like, from there, I'm going to get every actor that's ever voiced the Flash, played the Flash, to signs. And this is the stack of them right here. These are all signed by guys who made the Flash, and it's based on that cover.
So now you get an idea of the kind of treasure hunt that you just set off with that midlife cover.
Thanks.
So
if you can send that to me, it would save me.
Yeah. Just offline, email me your address.
I want, as a good friend, I want to witness his search. But I wanted to actually ask you about something in the past. A lot of creators that I've read up on, interviews I've read, a lot of comic creators point to like one comic book issue that was like the one that kind of set them on the path to being a creator. Do you
X-Men 137?
What happens in that one?
Oh, that's the Death of Phoenix.
The Death of Phoenix. Okay, so that's the John Byrne, Chris Claremont.
That run.
The Death of Phoenix. So that was the one that you were like, I want to do comics.
That was my holy grail, and I think the first issue I ever bought on the stands was 138. I saw it on the stands
Okay.
My brother, we had gotten a box of comics. Someone always gives you, especially in like the
Sure.
early 80s, 70s, 80s, you
Yeah.
get a box of comics, you start reading like, wow, this is awesome. And so my brother had some subscriptions to the Incredible Hulk and Spider-Man. And we had like this rule that I couldn't collect anything that he was collecting.
That's
And so I chose X-Men.
Yeah.
I chose X-Men.
Nice. Good one.
And I think I bought like 138 or 139. I can't remember exactly the first issue, but I remember I bought it because I saw 137 on the stands, and it had like the big banner, the ad on the top. Like, I was like, win a Schwinn bicycle or whatever. I can't remember what it was.
I remember those.
But it took me like a few years to save the money to buy 137. And I remember at the time when I bought it was $7. And my mom was like, "It better be made out of gold." Like, she could not understand me getting it. But that was my holy grail. And then I went back and I collected all the Claremont run, or as much as I could afford as a kid, going back, and yeah, so that run was it for me, like John Byrne. And then I followed John Byrne on everything, he was the guy.
That's usually the one that people say, like, oh, that's when I realized there were people doing this. Like, I wasn't just reading something that was born out of thin air, but there were people who do this for a living. And you're like,
my biggest shame, sorry to interject,
no problem.
was going to a creation convention when Paul Smith took over, after Paul Smith took over the X-Men. And I don't know if that was like 82, 83. I don't know, 84, it could be even 84. Yeah. I don't remember what year it was. But I hated the art so much because I think he replaced either Cockrum or I think it was Dave Cockrum he replaced, who came back after. And I hated the art. And I remember that they had like a little panel with like the editor and a bunch of people who worked on X-Men. And it was so informal. There was no stage. It was literally two dudes in a chair, and then like a semicircle of chairs, and then a few people standing behind.
Where was it back?
It was in Manhattan. It was a hotel in Manhattan.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't remember exactly where. Probably Midtown. And I was like, I raised my hand, little punk ass 11, 12-year-old, whatever. And I was like, I have a question. And I'm like, do you like Paul Smith's art? And they were like, yes, we love it. I'm like, why? Because he sucks. And I got booed mercilessly by the people who were also in attendance.
Oh, that's funny.
That's a great. Are you still?
And later, I love Paul Smith. I think he's great. I just was stupid and didn't know. I'm sorry.
You don't like the change. That's the thing.
Yeah, as a kid, yeah. As an adult, objectively, I think Paul Smith is a better artist than Cockrum, even though Cockrum has, he does what he does.
It's something you grew up with, and you get ingrained, and then you change, and you're like, wait, this isn't the same thing.
Yeah,
I don't want to read this anymore. They ruined what I love.
It's funny you mentioned that. I noticed that about some artists, where as you get older, you look back at some other artists and you kind of reevaluate them. Like, I went through a big. This is going to sound crazy, but I went through a big reevaluation with George Perez. Like, where I wasn't crazy about George Perez's art when I was younger, but as I got older, I started to look at it and be like, "Oh no, that was actually really good." It's great, and I was,
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
You were saying you were
are you collecting anything currently? Are you still a collector or not?
No, I'm not a collector anymore. I think like once you're sort of inside the what do you call it? I had stopped collecting when I was maybe 18 or 19.
Okay.
And I gave all my comics to my brother. So I haven't collected since. I read comics. And then when I was doing a lot of cons, I was collecting all the John Byrne Claremont X-Men and getting them slabbed. And I gave I collected a lot of them, and not all of them, but I gave them to my son. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, did you give your brother 137? Because that would be crazy.
What do you?
I did.
What do you read?
He got mad at me because I didn't treat them well enough. He's like, "Well, you're not treating your comics well."
You read them.
They weren't beat up, but like I had like him in like a pile or something. He was a little persnickety about it. I think personally.
What are you reading right now that you could recommend? Anything?
I'm reading Kyle stuff. Kyle stuff. The Massiverse, Radiant Black. I think it's a really good comic. I haven't been in the store in a while, to be honest with you. I read the first couple issues of Wonder Woman, the Tom King. I thought it was an interesting take.
Yeah.
Those are really the only things that I read recently. I'm just so busy, man. Like I have a day job currently where I'm the lead writer on an interactive series,
Okay.
which is kind of like an animated series mixed with like a choose your own adventure, where like it's like a 24-minute episode, and there's 4 choices in the episode, and so you watch the episode, and between in the week, it's like 16 weeks. And so between the episodes, you have the whole week to vote on. It's like trinary choices, so like 3 to 5 trinary choices. It's DC Heroes United, so you guys might like it.
Okay. What's it on?
It's going to be an app, and it'll also be browser based. I don't think it's going to be on Xbox or PlayStation. I'm not sure, but they did. The same company did a Silent Hill thing, which is kind of like was like their first foray into this sort of interactive thing.
So it's not out yet.
It's not out. It's not out yet. Yeah, So we're still working on it. We're writing scripts. That takes a lot of my time, and so consequently, finding time to read comics is hard.
Okay. Yeah, believe me, we're just doing.
I know we
just doing this.
Takes up. I mean, this is not our real life gig. We're both teachers, so we squeeze this in when we can, and then to squeeze the reading of comics. And I probably get like, I say it every one of these interviews, I probably get like,
you give yourself away every time.
Fucking time. I probably get like 40 or 50 pulls a month. So I get, I'm buying everything that's out there. PC, basically every title, and then a couple of Marvel, and then some independents thrown in there that just they think would appeal to me. I'll give you a recommendation because you're the same we are. Noah Van Sciver is doing a series.
Oh, Maple Terrace.
It's about him growing up in New Jersey in the 1990s when Image hits, and how collecting changed. It's him collecting, and how he he has a bully that torments him, and
very independent title.
It's really, really, really well done, and it appeals to people our age.
Yeah. You said Maple Terrace?
Maple Terrace. Yeah. Really good. We had him on like 3 weeks ago, and we had him on just because of that, because we really loved this book. Is just
really good.
It's so well.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
All right, I'll check it out.
And it appeals. It's for us. It's for our age group, because he.
Sure.
Oh, I wanted to just say also, I'm a big fan of Injustice. I thought that was a great series.
Oh, well, I mean, I just picked up the ball from Tom. Tom did it for 2.5 years and set the table, I think, really well.
Yeah, but you really brought it. You brought it along really nicely. I thought it was great. But it's funny because that was one of those series that, even as a longtime reader, I was consistently surprised by, because a lot of the superhero stuff, you can, after a good number of years, you're like, I kind of have a feeling where this is going, but that one consistently surprised me all the way through. I was always taken by that. Were you drawn to that? I mean, did you want to do that series first off, or was it like assigned to you, or was it something you were like, oh, I'd like to?
It was offered to me.
And you were like, I really want to do it. And
yeah, I mean, it was a chance to write the whole DC universe, and I knew that there was going to be, at least X amount of issues, I mean, they renewed it year to year, but I knew that I would have an opportunity to do a bunch of issues with a lot of different characters that at the time I hadn't written,
Yeah.
So it was an easy yes, it was fun. I really enjoyed it. The limiting factor for Injustice was obviously that the comic ends when the game begins. So like the status quo has to be established from the game.
Yeah.
There were limitations, but I got to do fun things. I got to have Wonder Woman break Superman's arm. I got to kill Alfred. My favorite, I had fun doing the whole the weird relationship between Harley and Billy Batson.
That was great. Yeah,
like I had fun. Just do fun stuff like that. And it was, in some ways, it was sort of like a proving ground to be able to cast, to be able to handle like this huge cast, which I think served me well on my current run on the Justice League. Yeah. So
when you do this, so that's a perfect lead into this. When you do something like this, what kind of guidelines do they give you that you can and cannot do? Because you're talking about some of the greatest superheroes ever made, and now you're talking about two of the biggest movie icons to ever hit the screen. What do they tell you? Like, are there times when they say, no, you can't do that? Or,
I mean, not as many as you would think on this series. I think the biggest thing, you got DC Warner Brothers, you've got Legendary, who had the rights to Kong and controls the Godzilla rights, but they answer to Toho, right? Toho Japan. So there's three entities that all have to be on the same page. And remarkably, I didn't get a lot of no's. It was things like, you can't use Ghidorah because contractually it's not in the contract. So I can't use it because wasn't asked for and negotiated in the contract. So like, okay, I can't use Ghidorah. So I'll have to swap out, another Titan. And then, there are, they all want their characters to be in a positive light. So you just know that going in, right? Sure. You don't try to, have one side be, feeling like their character is not respected. I know I caught a bunch of flack for what happened to Superman in issue 2.
I figured,
but I feel like I mean, I didn't get flack from DC, not from the fans.
Yeah. Really?
DC was fine with it. DC was fine with it. They were absolutely fine with it. Because it's like a story, right? Like, how do you do 7? You're doing 7 issues, 210 pages of story, right? Like, there's certain moves you have to make. Superman, he's difficult because he's so powerful that you're going to have the people out there. They're like, well, there shouldn't even be a story. Like, he can go in there and just punch all the kaiju and it's over because he's mega powerful. Like, I had a bunch of there's like people who are like really interested in like power scaling. There's like a whole subculture that I didn't even know existed until this happened. And they're like, "Is this like Mega Prime so and so like version of?" And I was like, "I don't know, it's Superman."
Yeah, the fan community can be a little bit
what's the word?
So,
toxic in certain ways.
I mean, I would say like uber passionate. How about that?
Passionate.
I'm not saying all of them. I'm not saying all the fans.
Sure.
Because we're fans, but there are certain corners I've noticed that get a little precious about things, and it's like, just enjoy the story. Come on.
And so I don't know, man. Like, I don't know what kind of story you want. Like, do you just want stats? Because that's not what comic books are. Like,
exactly.
If you want to look at the back of a baseball card and see how many home runs Superman hit, cool. You know what I mean? Like I do that too growing up. Like, I keep track of Aaron Judge. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it has its merit, but that's not what a comic is. And a comic is a story, and it has to go places. You have to set up, the arcs for the characters, and there's a structure to it. And so, did anyone think that I killed Superman? Really? Did you think that I killed Superman in issue 2?
No, probably no. It's funny. We did a short on that because I thought it was great. We did a short on that, and it got really good feedback that people didn't know that he died. It was like Superman's killed by Godzilla, and people went crazy. Like, well, wow, how are they doing this?
Well, as a kid who grew up on the Channel 11 afternoon Godzilla movies, I was
WPIX, baby.
Me too.
Yeah. I was like, that's what it was great. I
mean, if you throw Godzilla, and to me, when this first started coming out, and you talking about Godzilla and Kong versus the Justice League, something I never thought would happen. And then when you put it out there, it's great. It's bringing me back to being a kid, like you said, watching those Godzilla movies, watching King Kong as a kid, and then the superheroes you love. How did that come to you? They come to you with it? Because at the time, you weren't really doing much with DC at the time, right?
Yeah, basically, it's sort of through the good grace of Robert Napton at Legendary. He's a good friend of mine. I've known him for a lot of years. Worked on some stuff. Like, I had just recently, at the time, I had just recently done some Godzilla stuff and some Kong stuff for him. The year before that, I did a graphic novel with Oscar Isaac and his pals, who had like this concept that they had fleshed out, and I wrote the graphic novel. Christian Ward did the art. It's called Head Wounds. You might like it. It's pretty cool. Christian's art is great on it. And so, I've always been on his radar because we're good friends, but also I had been recently doing Legendary work. And so I think it was, once the two sides, DC and Legendary, decided to make this comic, thankfully he put me up first because of, I think, because of my experience, I have, I've got Kong right here.
I was about to ask, were you already a fan?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, that's
and
a
I
good
got
one.
and I got Flash there.
Oh, look at that.
So,
why don't you have that?
Okay, so with the Flash tattoo. All right. So I'll tell you a quick story. I'm going to do your logo. So I have a daughter who's 21. She's just graduating college, and she wanted to get a tattoo up at college. She's like, I'm gonna get a tattoo at college. I'm like, no. Don't get a tattoo up at college. You're up in and I don't want to say Lancaster, Pennsylvania, but it's a little bit backwards. It's not like New York. Come back to New York when you get here. We will get it together. We'll get matching tattoos of the Flash logo, and she's gonna put that in it, and then I'm gonna put my daughter's names in theirs, and it's gonna be this logo here. So I am getting a Flash tattoo, but it's it's coming in a month or two. Thanks for putting me out there.
Yeah. So ultimately, I was just fortunate that that Robert recommended me, and Ben Abernathy, who was the editor at the time, he was like, "Yeah, let's do it." So they offered it to me, and I was like, "Yes, absolutely." Nice. I mean, wait, you talking about writing a comic book with Godzilla, King Kong, and the DC universe? Yes, please.
Look at the best set of action figures you could have been handed, right?
Yeah.
Godzilla definitely kills superheroes in my toy.
And I get to it gets to be in its own Earth. I can do what I want.
Right.
I basically cherry picked all the versions of the DC characters that I like.
Right.
That's why at the same time you'll see Wally West as like a younger, he's hardly in it, but like a younger Flash. You've got Damian. You've got different versions of characters that don't make sense if you're a canon purist and you're following like who appeared when. That's not what this is.
Right. Yeah.
This is me just collecting my favorite. There's a lot of like George Perez era New Teen Titans in it. Like I just wanted to write what I wanted to write, and because it's an Elseworlds, they had no problem with that.
No, it's been really good. It's a great concept. It's being portrayed very well. I'm enjoying it.
Did you guys see the spoiler that came out that DC came out with about issue 7 with Kong?
No.
Oh, you didn't see the image of him? He puts on a Green Lantern ring.
Oh, really? No, I definitely didn't see that.
We have a friend who may be the largest Green Lantern fan we've ever met, and he's
not bigger than Kong.
He is. Yeah,
that's good. Yeah, I'm surprised he didn't say anything about it. It's
funny, given DC's histories with big gorillas. Have they ever had a gorilla with a ring on? It seems like
I don't know,
because DC's completely infested with big gorilla characters. So
sure,
chimpanzee, Planet of the Apes, Green Lantern crossover.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Look at that, you knew it.
All right. I need a lot. Talking about. I'm invested in this. What else do you have going on right now besides you have No One is the other one that's
No One's the other one that's out right now with Kyle Higgins. Yeah, at Image. It's sort of like it's a big complex sort of vigilante serial killer story that it's kind of like we just want to do a superhero book, like a Batman book, like The Wire,
right?
Or like a Daredevil. So like there's in this the concept for No One, for those that don't know, it's like set in a world with a serial killer who's did these accountability killings, like holding people corrupt powerful people accountable and killing them.
Right.
And that starts because No One starts as sort of like anonymous, but with more teeth. And he doxes and outs these corrupt people and says, if you don't, if you guys are not held accountable, I'm gonna prove, I'm gonna prove by just sending out information and prove that you guys are corrupt. And then they're not, the justice system does not do anything. And so that's what it sort of incites the serial killer to start killing these people. And so No One puts on an outfit, basically like a vigilante, to try to put the genie back in the bottle and stop the killer. Right. But it's like the story. The main character is really a reporter named Julia Page, who is hired but it takes place in Pittsburgh. She works for the Pittsburgh Ledger. and they want him to do a podcast because here's the thing: is that nobody knows who No One is. The name is No One because the idea is it doesn't matter who he is, right? So he calls himself No One. He could be anyone. He's No One, and so they're hired to do a podcast called "Who Is No One" and try to figure out who No One is. At the same time, there's also this other big mystery of who the accountability killer is, and what we do know is that there's a man that's been arrested for a series of killings, for the accountability killings, and his father is the assistant chief of police. And so, but then the killings continue with the same murder weapon.
Right.
So it's like, is the son guilty? Is he not? So it's a big conspiracy thing where like you have 30 characters. So it is ambitious, like The Wire. It's very dense reading. But here's the big twist. That's I guess you guys haven't heard about it, but that podcast.
I was doing my research and I saw this pop up and I was like, why is this not being pulled for me at my comic shop? It's you doing it, so I don't know.
Yeah, well, here's the thing: is that we did the podcast. So the In-World True Crime podcast.
Yeah,
we wrote 10 episodes. So for each issue, there is a podcast, and Patton Oswalt and Rachel Lee Cook are the main characters. So you read the issue. There's a QR code. It pops open the podcast, and it's like anywhere from, I think the first one's like 30 minutes, and then anywhere from like 15 to 30 minutes of like additional material. There's also like in the show notes, especially in the earlier issues, there's like newspaper articles and stuff. So it's like this immersive like world building thing that you can experience across different mediums.
That's great.
How many? Yeah, so it's pretty cool. It's 10 total. 8 are out now.
Okay.
Actually, eight comes out, I think, next week.
And
no, actually, it came out this week.
Okay. It's Image, right? So I'll hit them up.
Yeah, I'm gonna go find them.
Yeah, that sounds.
Yeah, so you read each issue, then listen to the corresponding podcast. So it's an in-world true crime podcast where the characters from the book are doing the podcast.
I love that idea. That's fantastic.
That's great. I'll reach out to them.
I noticed a lot of your creator-owned stuff, the Image stuff and other things, leans more toward the horror. Are you a big horror fan?
I like horror. I do. I mean, I'm more of a crime person.
Yeah.
But like those movies and that genre is really hard to crack. And so I realized that like crime stories have a lot in common with horror stories, and like they're both thrilling in certain ways and with mysteries. And so I was able to sort of port over my love of crime into horror and embrace horror. Yeah. So I mean, I've seen everything. I do watch horror. And I enjoyed writing horror books also.
And that's Black Bat was that. Black Bat was more of a crime.
Yeah.
Like a pulp. Was it based on the pulp character, the Black Bat?
Mm-hmm.
It was.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That was a good series.
Yeah.
It was really good.
Actually, I think you can still find those stories online because I think they're out of copyright now. Not yours, the original Black.
Yeah, well, that was one of the things that Dynamite was doing was using public domain characters.
Right. They did the Project Superpowers series.
Yeah.
And all those like Green Llama and all those characters. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was kind of incredible the way they did that.
Yeah, so I was like doing my version of like a different take on Batman, with Black Bat, because
it was good. No, I have it somewhere.
It was
Yeah. What kind of horror movies do you like? Like what?
I mean, I've watched. I mean, I like gory horror movies. I like slashers.
Okay, so I have a question for you. Have you seen Terrifier?
Terrifier, that's recent, right? That's like in the last.
Art the Clown.
No, I haven't seen that one. I haven't seen that one.
That's like a litmus test for you.
It's my litmus test.
Yeah, you're like, can you sit through this movie?
Because it's actually a good friend of mine. It's a Staten Island based group. They're called Fuzz on a Lens. They're producers. They're making them. So they're making the third one right now. It's going to be a Christmas movie.
Okay.
And it's the person who's actually writing it and produced it is a good friend of ours, and he appeared in it. And I can't get through 20 minutes out of it.
Is it too gory?
It's brutal.
It is so brutal. It's so violent.
Brutal.
Okay. Did you ever see Irredeemable? The foreign film Irredeemable?
That would be more you than me.
No, I don't think I've seen it.
I think it's the name. I'm sure it's the right name. Hold on.
Because if you like gory horror and you like clowns, go Terrifier 2. It won't disappoint.
Oh no! Irreversible. Monica Bellucci. It has like a 12-minute rape scene in it.
Oh no! Oh.
or I don't know how many minutes. I mean, it's just excruciating scene. And at the very end, I'm going to spoil it for you.
No, go ahead. I like to see how things happen.
The husband or boyfriend, I can't remember because I've only seen it once, and he gets revenge on the guy. It tracks him down in a club and grabs a fire extinguisher and bashes the guy's head in until it's pulp.
And they show it.
Yeah,
and they show it. Yeah,
that's like that scene in Sin City where
just watch
where Hargrave beats the yellow bastard to death.
But Sin City, like there's an element of like heightened reality.
Yeah,
it's like this looks like
the color. Yeah. It's fine. I watched it the other day. But if you like gory horror, just Terrifier 2, they made it for $250,000 and it made over 10 million.
Yeah, they did really well with it.
And it's
so funny that's become your litmus test. Like, if you like horror, can you
sit through this? I don't want to, and so far, no one has said yes to that.
I had that with the Japanese movie Audition for a while, where I would ask people, "Have you ever been able to get all the way through Audition?" Have you ever seen Audition?
No, no.
God,
that's so.
Rob Zombie said in an interview he was like, "What's wrong with the people who made this movie?"
Is that like a snuff film one?
It's about a girl who gets revenge on this guy who basically sexually harassed her. And she tortures him with piano wire and like, oh my God, it's a rough one. How did we get on this?
I don't know.
Horror.
So if you could work on any character right now, who would you want to work on? Any character, any universe, who would you like to take your take on?
That's tough. I don't know, man. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, the problem is there's been a lot of good versions of stuff that I really like. Like I love Planet of the Apes, but they did such a good job with the movies that, like, I don't even know what I would do with it. Or like, I mean, I've worked on all the DC characters, so
you got all them already.
I've worked on Kong now. I've worked, I mean, I'm not like on like a big scale or film, but
you love. I'll suggest one to you. So if you want to come up with an idea, I'll suggest something to you. And I'm suggesting this to multiple people because I want it. You're a guy from New York, so you'd be the perfect one to write this. There has not been enough Warriors stuff out there. So if we could do a Warriors comic book that does something that takes place after
in that universe,
you're a guy from New
York.
I have you're probably a fan, right? Of the movie.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course.
It's hard to improve on, though. That's the difference.
Continuation.
It's really good. I mean, there's a weird rights things. I think they've tried to do it. They've like.
Oh, really?
It's just one that's licensing and remakes or whatever. I think that's a tough nut to crack. Yeah, it's a good one though.
You do not have to say me at all. Just take the idea and run with it.
Mine's always a weird one. I always like someone to do something more with Buckaroo Banzai.
I haven't seen that movie in a long time.
That's never going to happen. And my other question that I always do towards the end is, is there anybody in the industry you'd like to work with that you haven't had a chance to work with?
Yeah, an illustrator.
Mm-hmm. I mean, most of them. There's so many good artists out there.
Yeah, and you said we weren't going to be grilling.
I'm trying. Sorry.
Yeah, there's I think there's so many. I mean, obviously, you see a guy like, oh my God, he's done a bunch of covers. He's doing World's Finest. What's the artist in World's Finest? Why am I drawing a blank on his name?
I have it sitting right over there.
I think he's the best. He's like my favorite artist right now.
The new run on World's Finest.
Yeah. He did some Godzilla covers.
Comics.
He did some. Too.
Yeah. I have it. It's in the drawer right over there right now.
Now, I just want to bring up one last. I don't know if this is one last thing, but I feel like we're going in loops here. But you started as a colorist, right?
I sure did.
Yeah, and you colored the Flash stuff you did. I know that, right?
Mm-hmm.
For the New 52 part. There's an issue. You and Francis Metapol did. I think it was Francis Metapol. And my memory's like, what is it? Detective Comics.
Yeah.
There is a
Dan Mora. God damn it. That's so terrible that I can remember his name. Sorry. Dan Mora.
What was his name again?
Dan Mora.
Dan Mora, yes. I kind of knew that because I was reading it.
So good.
There's an issue of Detective Comics you worked on the cover is one that it's one of those covers that I absolutely love. I think it was such a great standout cover of Batman in sort of a dark blue violet with a yellow background on it. Did you do the coloring on that? I was curious.
No, that was all Francis. Francis, I think at that point started coloring the covers of Detective Comics because he was sort of transitioning to wanting to do it all himself. So he did that with the like his stark yellow.
Do you still do artwork, or is it something you just do all writing now?
I don't color anymore. I say I retired from coloring because I did it for 20 years. And I had enough.
You did such a good job with the Flash, though.
No, it was great.
Yeah,
it's been the best year. But
I appreciate it.
What do you have coming up? Any conventions? Anything we can plug? I know you have something coming up soon, right? Next week.
Like I think it's a week from today. No, it's 2 weeks from today. WonderCon, March 29th through 31st in Anaheim. So I just got an artist alley table, so I'll be there. I think it's D3, but I'll be there. I usually go to New York Con. I haven't tabled there in a long time.
You haven't been there in a while.
I've been there. I just haven't tabled.
Oh, and I know I've seen you there a couple times. Actually, you've signed some stuff for me every time you're there. It's just you haven't been there in pre-COVID, right? You haven't been there since COVID.
No, I've been there. I've been there.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I haven't had an artist alley's table because it's such a like tough to be there for 3 or 4 days just sitting there, and it's a grind, and I'm just not in that space to be grinding.
I go every year. Brian went for the first time this past year, and he almost died of a heart attack just one day. He barely could walk.
It's a little bit.
They announced Godzilla thing at New York Con at a panel, the Jim Lee panel. I don't know if I came out and talked to Jim about it for a little while.
Right.
So I go because it's an excuse to go to New York. So I've gone the last. I think I'm probably 4 or 5 years in a row. Since COVID, I've gone. Every year.
It's getting more and more crowded every time we go.
Yeah, it's just an excuse to be in New York. I don't spend that much time at the con.
Back to the right. Yeah. Listen, if you ever need to use 2 ugly guys in a comic, we're here. Just throw our faces in there.
Fair enough.
One good-looking guy, one not so good-looking guy. Thank you. Got anything else?
No.
Thank you.
Anything we can direct people to online? Any websites or
where they can find your
anything
stuff
like that?
I mean, I have 2 books at Image, so I'd say ask your shop or something like that. Midlife, the Volume 1 comes out, the graphic novel or the trade paperback. Excuse me.
That's what I was thinking.
The trade comes out in June, so it will be available then.
I'll definitely be sure to pick that one up.
You don't no personal site you want to promote that?
I don't have a personal site. I probably should.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah.
But you can find me on any of the whether it's X or Blue Sky or Threads or Instagram. Generally, my handle's usually my name. It's Brian Bucc, but the Bucc is phonetic, Booch.
Okay, so great. Yeah, we'll put links to some of the stuff in the end of the show notes at the end. But
sure.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
This was cool for me.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me, guys.
And next time you come to New York, let us know. We'll
It'll be for New York Con for sure.
Yeah, let me know. We'll definitely be there. So
all right, sounds good.
I'll be there. He might not survive. But thank you. Thanks so much. Take care of yourself.
All right, man. All right, man.
Be good. Bye-bye.